Hey guys, welcome to the video. Salt here. Today we're going to be going over the secondary weapon, the Cantare. Now this is actually the second take that I'm doing on this weapon, and it's because on the first video I did very early this morning, I missed a crucial mod on this weapon that increases its power by a lot. It's a weird interaction with a weird mod that usually doesn't go on many builds. And that's probably why I missed it there. And so I want to give a little special shout out to my friend Montero U for pointing out that one mistake. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Montero. All right, we have the top commenter of the last video, Owanyanko 5903, the first commenter of the last video, Smollets N6I, and our recent supporters of Colonel 06, Alfofo, and Toxic Sneeze. Thank you so much for your support. And of course, we're doing the Cantare today. Let's go ahead and go down into the arsenal here. The Cantare are these throwing knife weapons. They came out with Jade. They also have these like little hip holsters, which are kind of cool. They would be nice for some like certain fashions. Now, before we go over the build, I actually want to go over in the simulacrum, and I want to talk about some really weird and quirky things about the Cantare. There's a lot of weird things about it. So I'm going to go exit here, go right into the simulacrum. Now, I will have everything timestamped, so if you don't really care about the quirky things on the Cantare and you just want to kind of copy a build, you can always skip ahead, and that's okay. But it's a very quirky weapon, so I suggest if you didn't see the first video I put out this morning, to watch this, because you might be like, why aren't you putting crit chance on the weapon? Or why are you putting punch through when it says it doesn't have any punch through? All right, so the Cantare. Let's go over unique and exciting things about the Cantare. I'm going to just scroll over this right here, and then I'm going to read my notes that I have. So this throws knives that lodge into surfaces and then return on reload. On return, they have a 300% critical chance. Now, that is not necessarily true. It has a 300% absolute critical chance, which is a very important difference between regular critical chance. And I'll make sure to explain that. Enemies struck by the return grant allies in affinity range plus 20% reload speed for 30 seconds. And if you were wearing the other two Jade weapons, the Evensong primary and the Harmony melee, then that plus 20% reload speed buff would actually be a plus 60% reload speed buff. All right, so let's go over the quirky things first. I'm going to go to a blank build here just to kind of explain these things. So the first quirky thing is that this says that it has 0 punch through, which is not true. And it says that it is locked, like you can't mod the punch through, which is also not true. And we're going to show this first, that it has innate punch through, so no mods whatsoever. Going to go ahead and throw this. It affects 3 out of 4 guys. 3 out of 4 guys. 3 out of 4 guys. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and mod for punch through, and you'll see that it's going to hit 4 out of 4 guys. So I'm just going to put Merciless Gunfight on. This gives me 1.2 punch through. And now you'll see that moddable punch through actually works. So I messed with the three first rows. I'll do the last 2 rows here. So I'm going to throw this. You'll see it hits all 4 this time. Throw this and it hits all 4. So this has innate punch through, and it also is moddable for punch through as well. So both of those like things on its stat sheet are just incorrect. All right, the next thing I want to go over, and probably the more complicated thing that I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about, is its absolute critical chance value. So there are a few different types of critical chance in the game, and unfortunately, DE does a really bad job of indicating what type of critical chance these things are. And so it confuses a lot of people. I mean, it even confused me for a really long time until I finally understood it. So let's go over like the most basic type of critical chance, which is base critical chance. So you can see the Cantare has a base critical chance of 18%. And this base critical chance is what all the mods kind of use to go off of. So the next type of critical chance we'll talk about is modded critical chance. So let me just type in crit here. We'll bring up a basic crit mod like Creeping Bullseye. This says it gives 200% critical chance. Well, this is 200% of 18. So 18 times 2 is 36, I think. So this would be 36 plus the base of 18 equals 54. And that's how modded crit works. I think most people understand that. It's, basic function of Warframe to put mods on your Warframe or if you're on your weapon. Now let's go over a rare form of crit called final critical chance. Final critical chance is in weird things like puncture procs actually give 5% final critical chance buffs. There is a Warframe arcane called Avenger. Avenger gives 45% final critical. There's an Adarza Kavat pet that gives a 60% final critical buff. And now what final critical is it's probably the easiest to actually describe because it just gets added at the very end of all of the equations. And so right now there's no equations on our weapon because it's blank. So if we were to let's say have Avenger, let's use Avenger as the final critical we're talking about. So if we had Avenger on our Warframe, that would be 18 base plus 45, and that would be our critical chance value. All right, well, let's make it a little bit more complicated, and let's put Creeping Bullseye here, because now we have the base critical and a modded critical, and now we're still going to be talking about Avenger, which is a final critical. Well, it's still pretty easy to calculate this because, you know, the modded is 54%, and the final critical goes at the very end, so it's just going to be 54 plus 45 from Avenger equals 99. Okay, it's pretty easy. You know, if you got your critical chance up to 100%, well, it would be 100% plus 45 from Avenger, and it'd be 145. So final critical is pretty easy. It just gets added at the very end of a calculation. Now, absolute critical chance. Absolute critical chance is probably the rarest form of critical chance. It's only on a few weapons in the game. It's only on a few Warframes in the game. Like Varuna, for instance, has 100% absolute critical chance, and she has 100% absolute status chance. And this weapon, the Cantare, has 300% absolute critical chance, which is pretty crazy. So what is absolute critical chance? Well, it means that you're always going to get that critical chance unless you exceed that value. Once you have exceeded that value, it will just act like it was never on your weapon, and you'll just be at whatever modded value that you exceeded it in. So no matter what you put on the Cantare, on those blade returns, it's always going to be 300% critical chance. The only time this will change is if you actually exceed that 300% critical chance. And like, let's say there's not even enough mods in the game to do this, but like, let's say there was enough critical chance mods in the game to put on like, I don't know, like 8 different mods for critical chance. And you got your modded critical chance to 301%. All right. Now that you're at 301%, this trait basically just goes away, acts like it was never on the weapon. And now your weapon is just at your 301%. So that's how it works. There's some quirkiness to it, though, where, again, final critical goes at the very end of an equation. And so it actually will go on top of absolute critical chance. So the Cantare has a 300% absolute critical chance, but final critical goes on at the very end. So if I had a puncture proc on an enemy, I could actually get a 305% critical chance with one puncture proc. With 2 puncture procs, it'd be 310%, and then 315 up to 325. You know, or if I had Avenger, it could be 345%. So we could show that here, though. Let's go ahead and show this. This weapon has puncture on it already, so it'll just happen naturally. But let me go and let me throw this at this group of enemies here, and I shouldn't see any exclamation points unless I get a really, really lucky with a puncture proc, but probably not. So I'm going to throw that, bring it back. All right, 2 red crits, no exclamation points. Back, 2 red crits, no exclamation points. 2 red crits, no exclamation points. All right, now let me go ahead and throw a bunch of these at this group here until I get a few puncture procs. And now you might see 1 exclamation point. I don't think I saw any there. All right, I saw 2. So I got lucky on a few puncture procs and I got 2 exclamation points. So that shows you that final critical goes on top of absolute critical. The other thing I want to show is that modded critical does not go on top of absolute. And we'll just show that by adding Creeping Bullseye. So, okay, my modded value is 54%. If I was incorrect and this actually was put on top of this 300%, then I should have a 54% chance to see a exclamation point. So over half of my shot should be exclamation points. And you'll see that is not the case here. We'll show that off. No exclamation points. If I do get any, it'll probably be from puncture, or it will be from puncture. Not probably. So no exclamation points. 1, and that's from puncture. So you can see not over half of mine were exclamation points. So that's not how that works. So what does this mean? That means that on this weapon, we're not going to be going for critical chance because there's really no point in going for critical chance unless we can exceed this value. And this is a very high value. Some forms of absolute are lower, like Varuna, for instance, has a 100% absolute critical chance. And so it's easy to exceed that 100% because who wants to do only yellow crits on Varuna? I want to do all kinds of crazy red crits. So on Varuna, I exceed the 100% absolute, but to exceed a 300% is really, really hard. And it's not really worth it. Again, you would have to use like every mod slot to do it, and it's not even doable right now. So, okay, let's show another weird, quirky thing with pistol acuity. Remember, we were saying that, modded critical chance doesn't affect or can't go on top of this 300% absolute. Well, guess what? This isn't technically critical chance. This is weak point critical chance. So there's a little bit of a loophole here. And you'll see that this actually does work on top of the 300% absolute. So this is like the one, loophole where it actually kind of works with it. Let's go ahead and show this off. Now, this is weak point critical chance, so I actually have to get headshots, but it's not just a headshot. I have to get a headshot on the return of the blades. So it's going to be a little bit more finicky. Let me see here. When it returns, you see triple exclamation points. Okay? If I was to do a body shot, though, because it's not a weak point, it goes back to really bad damage numbers. But in the head, when it returns, it's doing triple exclamation points. So acuity will work on top of the absolute. It's just a little bit annoying to use because acuity is already, kind of annoying because you have to make sure most of your hits are weak point hits. And now on this weapon, it's not just the hits, it's actually the returns that you're trying to get headshots on. And this weapon, it will return depending on where you are, where your position is. So you see all those knives there? If I was to press reload right now, they come back to me here. So I have to make sure I'm positioning myself correctly. So it's a little bit more annoying to use acuity on this weapon, especially since this weapon also arcs. So a lot of times what will happen is you'll go for a headshot, but it'll continue past him and it'll arc downwards. And then when you go for a return, it's just doing a body hit. So personally, I feel like even though acuity does stack with the absolute, I feel like it's still too finicky on this weapon to really use it. I mean, I guess you could if you really are super, super anal about how you aim this thing. But personally, I'm not going to be going for an acuity build. So, all right, let's go ahead and leave Simulacrum here. We'll show off the builds that we have. I have 2 builds today. And I'll also show how to make an acuity build if you want. It's a very easy change. If you do want to mess around with that acuity setup, you never know. Maybe you want to try that. Okay. So we have config A here. Now, of course, we have multi-shot on this setup here. For an acuity setup, it would just be, you would replace galvanized diffusion with acuity, and you would replace lethal torrent with the 90% fire rate mod. I believe it's called agility, agile agility, or let me type that in real quick. Anemic agility. There we go. All kinds of weird names here. So for an acuity build, this would be acuity, and this right here would be anemic agility. And that's the only change you would make, and it would work perfectly fine. Okay, let's go over the mods that we have on our build here. It's going to be galvanized diffusion for multi-shot, merciless gunfight for critical damage and 1.2 punch through. Remember, we're not putting critical chance on the weapon, but we can put all kinds of critical damage because we want to benefit from those red crits. Prime target cracker for 110% critical damage. Sharpened bullets for 75% critical damage. Lethal torrent for 60% fire rate and 60% multi-shot. Synth charge. This is the mod that I made a mistake on my first video and why I'm remaking the video. This is a weird mod that doesn't make it on like 99.9% of secondary builds. And I didn't think it was going to be that great here, but there is a very weird interaction that happens with the Cantare that actually makes this really, really good. So this is plus 200% bonus damage on the final shot, requires a magazine of 6 or higher. So just reading this, you would expect, well, it's only the final blade that is going to give me that bonus damage. So probably not worth it, right? Well, That's what Montero U actually helped me with. He's like, you know what? This actually gives all of the blades that plus 200% bonus, not just the final one. So you unload all 6, and when they return to you, all of them get this plus 200% bonus. So that's why I made the mistake, because when I read this, I didn't assume it was going to work that way. And it does. You know, that's great. It's going to make the weapon a lot stronger. Previously this morning, this was kind of a flex slot because I didn't really know what to put here this morning. I had the magnetic mod, which would still be okay, but this is actually extremely powerful. It feels like it's more than plus 200%. It actually might, I'm not sure, but it feels like it could be like a multiplicative increase because it feels like it doesn't feel, I saw the numbers. The numbers are more than a 200% bonus. So I'm guessing it might be multiplicative. Okay. And in the last 2 slots here, we're going to go for viral. So we're going to have the 60-60 toxin and the 60-60 frostbite to make viral. In the Exilus slot here, we have lethal momentum for plus 40% projectile speed. Projectile speed is very important on the Cantare because it has an arc and you want that blade to come back to you, preferably in the head. If you aimed at the head, you want it to come back through the head because you're getting most of your damage on the comeback of the knife. And because this has an arc, what a lot of times happens is it hits the head, it continues, it arcs downwards, and then when it comes back to you, it's hitting the chest on the way back. Well, lethal momentum will flatten that arc out a little bit and hopefully make it come back through the head more often. And in the arcane slot, we're going to be going for secondary merciless. This is going to be a 360% flat damage increase and a 30% reload speed. Reload speed is also extremely important on this weapon. So we have the 30 reload speed from Merciless, and we have the 20 reload speed from Cantare Chiral. Okay, so this is the Cantare build for a viral setup. Now I'm going to show the blast setup here. I actually have not included synth charge yet here. Really be up to you where you want to include it. You could either put it over Merciless Gunfight, because this is only 45% critical damage. The punch through is nice, but it does have a innate punch through, so you probably don't need it that much. Or you could put it over Sharpened Bullets. Up to you there. You could put your synth charge either over Merciless Gunfight or over Sharpened Bullets. But otherwise, it's pretty much the same build except for these 3 mods. You know, we're going for Blast, of course, because it's the Blast setup. So it's the 60-60 heat and the 60-60 cold to make Blast. You use the 60-60s because you actually want more status chance with Blast. So I know there is the primed version of heat here, but you still want to use the 60-60s. And then for Blast, you change one of the mods here to Pistol Elementalist. Okay, so that's going to be 90% status damage and plus 60% reload speed. Both are very good for the Cantare. Status damage because of the Blast. So everything else the same though. Now, both of these functioned this morning on testing. I tested them both without synth charge, but it should function pretty much the same with synth charge. But Viral and Blast were very close to each other. Viral is going to be the better single target damage dealer. Blast is, of course, going to be the better AoE damage dealer. As far as kill per minute values, they were extremely close this morning. I couldn't really decide which one to suggest. However, there is a clear winner if you have a external viral primer. If you have a way to externally viral prime, then you would absolutely go the Blast setup, because then you wouldn't really need to go the viral setup. So, but I'll be showing this off in gameplay with the viral setup here. And we're going to be throwing on synth charge. I want to see if this actually affects our kill per minute numbers. So this morning, it was kind of lackluster, the Cantare. It got 500 kills in 10 minutes, which is what I would consider an average weapon. An average weapon to me gets between 500 and 700 kills in 10 minutes. And it got like literally 500 on the dot. So I wasn't very impressed with Cantare. We'll see if synth charge can boost it up a bit. I think it will. I don't think it's going to make the Cantare into a killer. I think maybe we'll see 600 kills in 10 minutes. I think it's still going to be pretty average, but it should increase the strength of it. So let's go ahead and show this off in 10 minutes of gameplay. Do Steel Path Bot solo.
These foes deserve your respect. Honor them with quick deaths, and I with your victory.
Maybe we'll get better tile sets too, because this morning we had really bad tile sets.
Shut down all systems. I'm sending life support capsules your way.
It's already feeling better with synth charge. I think this is still a pretty clunky weapon, but it's feeling a lot better with synth charge so far. Oh, there's too many entrances in this room. They're coming from 4 different directions, which is not really that great. Let's see if we can find a better room. It's a dead end. You really want to find a tile set where you can just... I might actually fight up in this starting tile set. Might be the best place to get these guys. Trying to beat our 500 kill number this morning. I'm pretty sure it will, though, because, like, right off the bat, I'm feeling a lot stronger with synth charge. It's a weird interaction with this weapon that I actually wasn't aware of until Montero, you told me about it. So I do appreciate that information. Now, with this weapon, you might be tempted to go magazine capacity. You know, oh, if I can get more shots out, then, you know, there's more knives coming back towards me. I just don't feel like that's the best thing to do. I think magazine capacity, you actually want to keep at the base value, possibly even lower, although for synth charge to work, you need to have 6. So I think 6 is the perfect amount. I don't think you should mess with magazine capacity. Just because, you know, your normal targets in a game like this are going to be moving around. And so when you go to shoot at a dude's head, you know, if that guy moves before you go for the automatic reload, it's not going to come back to his head. And the bigger your magazine, the longer it's going to take you to go for that reload. And so you're going to have more potential to kind of like miss damage. So magazine capacity is not the way to go, even though you might be tempted for it. Reload speed is really good, and fire rate is really good because it lets you dump the mag quicker. I keep saying mag, but it's a throwable weapon. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Oh, we got Malice, and I don't have a melee weapon. I might end up downing myself. We'll see. Maybe I can take him out quick enough. I think I have the mag bubble on me. I think. Oh, my goodness, it's going to hurt. Malice, you're ruining the video, and you probably put another mag bubble on me. And I'm probably going to down myself again. I guess I didn't down myself yet. There we go, he's gone. The threat is gone. I still think this is kind of a clunky weapon. I still think this weapon is kind of clunky because you're getting most of your damage on the return. So, like, unless you're really used to using this weapon, like if this is your main weapon that you're playing with every day, all day, you'd probably be used to it. But most people, like me, for instance, you know, the way I play is to just shoot normally, not have to worry about like my positioning on the return. So I'm probably not getting as much DPS as I could than someone that maybe was more used to this weapon. We're at 5 minutes. Got 5 more minutes left, and then we'll see what our kill count is. I mean, it would be cool if maybe Synth Charge would like pull it into the above average category. I just feel like it's still going to be in the average category. It's still going to be between that like 500 and 700 kills. I'm going to need to get a life support or two. I'm going to hit all 3 of them actually. So when I do these runs, weapons that get 500 or more kills, I consider average. Weapons that get 700 or more kills, I consider above average or good. And weapons that... Actually, I don't need any more. Weapons that get 900 and more kills, I consider kind of like the meta, you know, what everyone's probably going to be farming, like the Torrid and the Borg Karnan and, you know, all the crazy incarnins everyone's using. I don't think this is going to score that level of kills, but I'm hoping maybe with Synth Charge, it'll be pulled into the above average, the 700 plus category. I'm just still thinking it's going to be about a 600 kill weapon though. Of course, this is without externals, right? I mean, you could use probably all kinds of weird externals to make this stronger. All right, 3 minutes left. I'll also put like in my community notes or in my I don't know what it's called. It's like some kind of a wall. I'll also make a message that I updated the build. That way, for people that maybe watched the build this morning, they can get that message and they can you know, make a change and add synth charge. It's the same polarity as the mod I had before that though, so it's not like it would mess anything up anyway. Oh, another unique thing about this weapon is it has infinite ammo. I didn't mention that, but it does have infinite ammo, which is kind of unique.
We cannot blame these creatures. They are being led by a false prophet, an imposter who knows not the secrets of the void.
Turn sides, that way we get everyone that spawned behind us. Then once this side is nice and clear, we'll turn sides again. If you guys watch my gameplay, you kind of understand what I do. Once one side starts looking clear, I'll jump over him and I'll switch to this side again. Got Vor in front of our face doing all kinds of weird TikTok dances.
Was cut in half, destroyed, but through its Yanis key, the void calls me. It brought me here, and here I was reborn.
Got Misery. I'm going to focus more on killing trash, though, than I am Acolytes, just to try to get a good kill number, so we can see how Synth Charge is doing up against the build this morning without it. The build this morning had the magnetic mod instead, which is good, and, you know, it would be really good, like, in super late game, where, like, you know, more than half of the dudes have Overguard. But the damage you get out of Synth Charge is incredible on this weapon specifically, because it has that weird thing that happens where all of them count as the 6th shot. I got about 10 seconds left. We're hoping to break 500. I'm pretty sure it's going to break 500. I'm guessing 600 is my guess. 600 to 650. I think it'll still be in the average category. We'll see. All right, that's it. That's it. 10 minutes.
Just found.
Set to traction.
This without you.
And what is it? Up or down?
Life support levels.
I think it's up top.
Extraction is your best option.
Okay, so let's see here. 657. It did score much better than this morning. It's still in the average category. You know, I would still consider that an average weapon. 500 to 700 kills in 10 minutes, I would still consider average. But it did perform better than this morning. I'll give it that. I'll give it that. Synth Charge did increase the power of it by a lot. Every run's going to be a little bit different too, though. You know, maybe if I was to do another run, I get a little bit unlucky and I go down to 600, or maybe I get even more lucky and I do hit 700. Who knows? But for this run, it was about at that 650. So yeah, that's the Cantare. That is the second take on it there. Again, thank you, Montero U, for pointing out Synth Charge and that weird interaction. It does, in fact, do a lot more damage. So yeah, if you guys like the video, consider giving it a like. If you haven't subbed yet, consider subbing or tell me what I can do to earn your sub. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. All right, bye.